Imagine a world where the sky refuses to weep, where the earth shatters into 1,000 jagged pieces under a sun that never sleeps. This isn't a dystopian film. It's the reality for millions today. But what if I told you that in the middle of a scorched desert 4,000 years ago, a civilization didn't just survive, they conquered the heat. They didn't have computers, they didn't have electricity, but they possessed a liquid gold technology that we have tragically forgotten. Today, we are digging up the secrets of Babylon to save our future. This is the blueprint of the great reservoirs. The story begins between two temperamental titans, the Tigris and the Euphrates. To the ancients, these rivers were gods generous, yet violent. In the spring, they would swell with melted snow from the distant northern mountains, threatening to wash away everything in a chaotic surge of mud and debris. In the summer, they would vanish into a mere trickle, leaving the soil as hard as stone and the crops to wither into dust. The Babylonians realized that survival wasn't about fighting the flood, it was about capturing it. They viewed the entire landscape as a giant, living vessel. Their first breakthrough was the mastery of the slope, a science of precision that borders on the miraculous. Look closely at their tools: simple wooden frames, plumb bobs, and leveling rods. Yet they achieved a precision that defies belief, even by modern standards. They understood that water is a destructive force if left to run wild. If a canal dropped more than 20 centimeters per kilometer, the water would gain too much kinetic energy, tearing the earth apart and destroying the very channels meant to carry it. If it was too flat, the water would stagnate, silt would build up, and the life-giving flow would choke to death. They mastered the golden slope, a ratio of exactly 0.0001, allowing gravity to be their perpetual, silent engine. They began carving the earth, not in random lines, but in a sophisticated, hierarchical network that mirrored the veins in a human body. The main canals were massive arteries, 30 meters wide and several meters deep, pulsing with the lifeblood of the empire. But the true masterpiece of their hydraulic genius was the reservoir. They didn't just dig holes, they engineered massive storage basins specifically designed to last. They built these basins 5 meters deep with a very specific purpose in mind. Why 5 meters? Because their astronomers and engineers had calculated the sun's greed, the rate of evaporation. A shallow pond would vanish in a week under the relentless Mesopotamian sun, leaving nothing but salt crust. But a deep, structured reservoir kept the water cool, protected, and present for the long months of drought. But they faced a massive technical problem. The desert is a sieve. Water naturally wants to leak through sand and porous clay. Their solution was the world's first major chemical engineering feat: bitumen. They harvested natural tar from the earth, heated it in massive cauldrons until it screamed in thick black smoke, and painted the world waterproof. Every brick, every seam, every floor of their reservoirs was sealed with this prehistoric plastic. It was a fortress for water, an impenetrable barrier against the thirsty sands. Let's break down the schematic that made Babylon the garden of the ancient world. At the mouth of every reservoir sat a sediment trap. This was a stroke of absolute genius that we still use in civil engineering today. They knew that floodwater is thick with silt, mud, and organic debris. If that mud entered the main basin, it would settle at the bottom and slowly choke the storage capacity until the reservoir became useless. By creating a smaller, shallower entry pool, the water would naturally slow down its velocity. The heavy silt would drop to the bottom of this trap, and only the clean, clear top layer of water would spill over the weir into the main reservoir. Once the water was inside this protected sanctuary, it was managed by a series of sophisticated sluice gates. These weren't just simple wooden boards. They were heavy, reinforced timber structures, fitted with bronze hinges and stone counterweights. By lifting these gates just a few inches, a single engineer, a guardian of the water, could decide the fate of 1,000 acres of wheat. They created a grid system, a fractal pattern of water distribution that allowed the desert to bloom into a paradise. When the river went dry in the searing heat of July, the reservoirs breathed life back into the land. The water didn't just sit there in stagnant silence. It was a living, moving resource. They even understood the profound concept of aquifer recharge. By holding large volumes of water in one place for extended periods, the sheer weight and pressure of the liquid forced moisture back down into the deep water table, raising the fertility of the entire surrounding region, far beyond the reach of the canals themselves. This was a 360-degree environmental management system that integrated the river, the soil, and the underground world into one sustainable cycle. Now, let's travel thousands of miles and thousands of years to the Sahel region of Africa. The heat here is a mirror of ancient Babylon, a brutal and unforgiving force. The crops are dying, the cattle are skeletal, and the traditional wells are deep, dry shafts of despair. But change is coming, and it looks surprisingly ancient. Modern engineers and local communities are realizing that the old ways are often the best ways. They are throwing away expensive, high-maintenance electric pumps that require diesel or parts that inevitably break and rust in the dust. Instead, they are looking at the Babylonian blueprints. In villages across Kenya, Sudan, Ethiopia, and Nigeria, people are rediscovering the power of the decentralized pond. Instead of waiting for a multi-billion-dollar concrete dam that might take decades to build and require massive international loans, these communities are taking their fate into their own hands. They are digging their own Neo-Babylonian reservoirs using the very earth beneath their feet. They are using local clay mixed with straw, the same recipe used for the indestructible walls of Babylon, and they are sealing them with natural, eco-friendly resins or locally sourced bitumen where available. The results are nothing short of transformative. By applying the 0.0001 slope rule, they are creating gravity-fed irrigation systems that cost $0 to operate and require no external energy. We see a farmer in Mali who now has 2 or even 3 harvest cycles instead of 1. He no longer fears the dry season because he built a sediment trap to catch the violent flash floods of the monsoon season. This is the Babylonian trappa way to turn a climate disaster into a seasonal blessing. In the drought-prone regions of the Sahel, we are seeing the rise of sand dams and stepped reservoirs. These structures allow livestock to drink from the lower tiers, while the upper tiers remain protected and clean for human consumption and precision irrigation. And by planting forests of drought-resistant trees around the perimeter of these basins, they are creating localized microclimates. These trees provide shade, reduce wind evaporation, and cool the air by several degrees, just as the legendary Hanging Gardens once cooled the royal halls of Nebuchadnezzar during the height of summer. It is a low-tech, high-intelligence revolution that values wisdom over hardware. We are learning that true resilience doesn't come from a computer chip or a satellite. It comes from a deep, fundamental understanding of the ancient laws of gravity, earth, and fluid dynamics. Every detail in this ancient modern hybrid matters, from the multi-stage filtration through layers of sand, gravel, and charcoal to the protective thermal layers that shield the precious water from the 50-degree heat. We are seeing communities in Nigeria applying compacted clay and straw techniques evolved directly from Mesopotamian mud brick making to secure their water future against the encroaching desert. These modern-day Babylonians are proving to the world that low-cost, low-tech solutions, when applied with high-level engineering principles, have the most profound and lasting impact on human life. The history of innovation is not a straight line, but a circle, where it moves from a hand-carved clay tablet to a digital 3D blueprint. Yet the physical laws of hydraulic engineering remain as constant as the stars. So, Babylon eventually fell to empires and the slow erosion of time, but its hydraulic wisdom is invincible and eternal. The shifting sands of Iraq may have covered their cities and temples, but they could not bury the truth of their engineering. As our global glaciers melt, as our rainfall patterns become unpredictable, and as our great rivers begin to retreat, we cannot afford the luxury of looking only forward. We must have the humility to look back. We must become the new water builders, the architects of a new hydraulic age. The technology of the future isn't just about artificial intelligence or space travel. It's about a simple brick, a bit of bitumen, a calculated slope, and the collective courage to store the rain before it disappears. Every village, every small farm, and every dry patch of earth on this planet is a potential Babylon waiting to bloom into life once again. We have the blueprint in our hands. We have the history in our blood. Now, we must have the will to act. The future of our planet is ancient. It is time to look at the dust and see the water. It's time to build your reservoir.
Thank you for watching. This immersive experience was brought to you by the power of AI storytelling. We use artificial intelligence to reimagine the past and entertain the curious minds of the present. The quest continues.